Cooking with the Defenders. I'm your host today, Heather Swartz. So we're gonna start with pressure canning because that one takes a little bit longer. Most of the beginning steps, obviously you have a list of all the equipment, everything you need on both. Most of the steps are very similar. So you're gonna start, obviously you need your jars and tools. In general, they have a lot of tools listed that I'm kind of like, whatever, you don't need to spend money on that. Like there's it's something crazy, like a air removal system or something. And it's basically like the bubble remover and headspace tool. Just use a spatula or your fingers and just like push the stuff around.
It's on my AR wrench.
Right, it's expensive. Well, not expensive, but it's money you don't need to spend. A lot of this stuff is, reusable, so its initial investment might be a little bit, but even then it's not expensive for the jars and stuff. These run probably like 10 bucks a case. So anyway, the only stuff that I actually use is pretty much these guys. I used to have the magnetic stick that is in this to lift out the lids, because they used to have you boil the lids and the bands in the water to sanitize them, sterilize them, get the rubber gooey so it stick. They don't need that anymore. They've actually changed them, so now you're good. That being said, this guy lifts the jars out of the water, so when you boil your jars, you can pull them out. Usually I would keep the jars hot, so they're already warm before I put the stuff in there and have the water hot, but for our area, this makes more sense. You can do it, all it works. Anyways, so you want to take your jars, wash them very, very thoroughly. That is a very important step of the canning process. Nobody wants botulism or anything else. You want to die. Right. Botulism is not your friend.
Added flavor.
So, and we did all these what?
Added flavor.
Not so much. Not so much. Like shuts down organs, you start like doing bad things, nobody wants it. Usually dead pretty quick. Just saying. Usually just don't wake up. But yeah, so you start out washing all your stuff in antibacterial soap. You can boil it, that's great, but I just like to do the antibacterial soap. Make sure you keep it clean. Obviously once you wash it, you don't want to put it all over a bunch of crap. You want to keep like the chain of command, if you will, so you're not getting it filthy along the way. Get all your stuff chopped up and prepped. Make sure all your jars are solid. Everything's no nicks, no chips, no nothing. If it is, just throw it away. It's not worth it. It won't seal right. Again, you can introduce foodborne illness, so just let it go. Make sure these are all in nice working order. Like as you can see, somebody that canned these used some old crap and it's all like rusty and gross. Not something you want to do. They're cheap. You can replace them. You never want to reuse these. Just throw them away because once you pop them, they're never going to go back. So, I think that's pretty much our prep start, right? And then, so for our pressure canning today, we're doing chicken, which I have already chopped up into some nice chunks, right? Our chicken.
This is like watching the Food Network.
Yeah! The live version.
Right?
Ooh,
Right. So, today we're doing chicken.
Master Chef.
Which I feel like this makes a lot of sense for our group, especially we got a lot of hunters. So you can can all that stuff. I mean, obviously some stuff like your back straps, you're not going to can that because that's weird. Like, you're just wasting.
You can.
You can, but he's dumb. Sorry.
I can't. That's where it's skillet.
Right. But like maybe you got some of the less delicious, like the tougher crap, whatever. You can can it, it's gonna tenderize it so much, it's gonna be like fall apart when you open it up. So that's nice. And then, if you don't feel like eating it, it'll make it way better. So these ones are some displays that we got from our wonderful friends, the Michaelses. We got chicken, pork, and beef. All these were the same size pieces when they cut them up and put in there with the same amount of space. But obviously, it creates a vacuum, hence why, the thing goes in instead of out.
Can I ask a real quick question?
Absolutely, I would love
Why
some
would the
questions.
liquid not be above, why would you not put enough to cover?
You don't.
There is no liquid actually.
Oh, really?
That's all liquid stuff.
In the raw meat,
That's
you don't
all
need to
stuff.
put liquid. Yeah, you just put, that's what we're doing right now. You actually just take your meat, chunked up, put it in the jar. You don't need, settle down. You're supposed to be the good
Stuff it
kid.
in.
Aren't you like state something?
Yes,
Set the
security.
example.
I'm making sure you make it tight.
Back to this side of the
By
room.
the grace of God.
But yeah, so you just want to get it in there. You want to leave.
She just swiped.
Worst.
Close your door.
This is why the cooking shows have mostly women in the audiences.
Right, and they're quiet and
Not in there.
You might be recorded. So you want to leave some space when you're putting it in there, because you want space for things to expand, shrink, whatever. Also, you don't want, I like to use this even if I don't need to pour the chicken in there, obviously. But I like it because I'm really lazy, and I don't want to sit there and wipe the thing, because it has to be clean around the lip, like the lip of the jar.
Okay.
So I don't really want to do it. So instead I'll use this, and it keeps it super clean. So it saves a step, saves time. You can just smoosh them down in there.
How tight is it?
I would say like, I mean, it's pretty in there. Settle down, children.
You don't need to.
Are you recording this? You better cut this part out. You know what? You should let people know. It's no false advertisement. This is what you're getting in this group. But I would say like, you don't want to like,
Rated immature, right?
NC-17.
I mean, you want it packed in there, but I mean, you can only fit in there so much. Yeah.
Will it make
I
it
mean,
harder to cook that way?
Yeah.
It'll make it harder.
Right, but you want to leave some space so it can go. Right.
You wanna leave some space, why?
You want to leave some space because, like, you know, things expand. Plus, it is going to shrink back down. You also want to keep it away from the top because if you have it all the way up to the top, there's air coming out of it because it's creating that vacuum.
Yeah.
So if you have it all the way to the very brim, like stuff's going to start leaking out. Your seal's not going to go very well because you might have like a piece of chicken just like dangling on the edge. It's
Okay.
not good. So you want to keep that area pretty clear.
Technically, how many chicken breasts is that?
This was about 10 pounds of chicken.
Okay.
I wouldn't go by breast because these were Restaurant Depot and they're like ridiculous sizes. Like, I mean, like, yeah, like they're like this big for a double loaf.
Okay.
They're freaking huge. But yeah, this is about 10 pounds of chicken and it's gonna give us 4 quarts. Usually you would obviously do this in bulk. Like, I mean, if you're gonna do it, unless, I mean, I guess if you're gonna do little batches, you could. I would typically, me personally, I don't want to sit here and can if I'm only going to do like 4 or 5 things. I would probably do a huge amount, then put them all in the pantry and be done. But you can do like little bits here and there. You can even do leftovers if you want. Like a lot of people don't realize you can pretty much everything. So if you make like a giant pot of sausage gravy, wherever that went, and if you have a bunch left over, you could make a couple little pint jars of it and can them up and be like, boom. If you have a small, I have a really tiny pressure cooker that'll hold just like a couple pints. So you can just do that real quick, in and out, and save it. Because these last up to 18 months once you can them, which is significantly better than, you know, obviously a fridge. But also, I don't necessarily like to freeze a lot of stuff because it always gets freezer burnt no matter how good of a job you do. And I don't like anything that tastes like that. So I'll just throw it away and it's a giant waste of my food, money,
Exactly.
time. I won't eat it because if it's even got a little ice crystal, I'm out. I'll just throw it away. But, you know. So these, like I said, 18 months, quick, easy, plus it doesn't take space up in your refrigerated areas. You can have a giant pantry. I have a really big one. It's like the size of a closet. And it's got shelves all the way around it, so you can just like stand in it and twirl around and there's just crap all around it. Yeah.
Just twirl around.
Well, there's no like, you can't walk in there. You literally walk, there's a space to stand and you can just like move like this. And it's from floor to ceiling, dry goods, like rice. Our family could probably survive at least a year on what I've got in the pantry alone.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, I got a lot, especially a lot of grains. All right, so now we're putting the lids. So you got them, you know, obviously sticky side down. You want to make sure that they're on there, like level, not crazy. You want to put your lid on. You want to do it finger tight. Don't crank the crap out of it because you got to give it the space to expand and push out the air. Because if it can't escape, it's not going to vacuum. See how like, and then these guys, because they're actually vacuum sealed. That's going to take a while. So we brought like, some samples for you to view. Because these actually have to sit for between, I would say like 10, 24 hours. So it's nice to actually do them. I keep the boxes
What do you
all
mean
the
let it
time.
sit for 10?
They got
Right, after we're gonna cook them in the pressure cooker, and then when they're done, you're gonna turn it off, let them sit, then you're gonna pull them out. I usually put them right back in the boxes. I see these, they're super sturdy. They're meant to hold all these jars and the weight. So you can put them right back in there while they're hot, let them cool. Because as they cool, they're gonna keep pushing the air out and they're gonna keep like creating a vacuum. So as it gets colder, you know, it starts to suck in. Yeah. So then it's like the vacuum seal. But it takes sometimes between like I said, like especially the size of the jars, if you're doing like big guys, because they make really big jars, you know, it's gonna take however many hours it's gonna take. So it could be 10, 24, maybe more if you're doing
Sometimes
giant
as
ones.
soon as you take them out of the pressure cooker and set them on the counter,
Right.
you'll hear a couple of them pop right away.
Right.
Sometimes it's an hour later, you'll hear one tink. You know, sometimes it's a couple hours, it depends on what you're canning and
Right.
maybe a temperature. So.
You laying in bed and you sit here.
Also, yeah. Also, if they don't seal down, like within probably, I'd say about, I'd give it like 24 hours. If it doesn't seal down, you gotta put it in the fridge and use it within like normal food time, which is 5 to 7 days, depending on the food. If it doesn't seal down, it's done. Just use it up. It's too late for you.
Move on.
Yeah, don't try to reseal it or redo it or whatever.
Yeah.
Something didn't go right, just let it go,
Boil it.
eat it, it's over. Right.
If you try.
But yeah, so you got the rack. You don't want to put the jars on the bottom. It'll make them bust sometimes, you know. I've busted a few jars. It's no good.
They use like syringes.
No, that water's not hot in there.
It's starting to get hot, but not really. No,
Oh,
because
okay.
you want your jars and your water to match. Because you can do it cold. Start cold with cold jars with cold food.
Okay.
Okay, but you don't want to not have them match because then that's where the glass gets angry and explodes. Right, because like if this is all full of really hot stuff and then you put it in the cold water, it could seize and then everything starts busting apart.
Okay.
It's happened.
Okay.
You know, but especially once it starts really going in there and the pressure's up, you just gotta it's God's will now. You gotta let it go because you can't open it. You just gotta see what happens at the end. It's too late for you.
How much water do you have in there?
I have probably about a half a jar coverage,
Okay.
about halfway up the jar. You could do, I like to do a little extra because I'm always scared I might run out.
I would say a minimum of an inch or so. If you're putting a full rack in there, like 7 quarts, I would do a minimum of an inch of water in the bottom before you put the jars in.
Oh, that's it?
But yeah,
Right.
yeah. All it is to create steam and pressure.
Mhm.
They're not. So you're boiling it through atmospheric pressure, not through liquid.
Yes, this is the low acid food production. Like you have to do the pressure cooker so it'll cook out all the danger stuff because it'll take it up to 240. Whereas water bath, the best you know of is what, 212? Isn't that what water rolls at?
216, 218.
Yeah, like this will go up to 240, so it'll cook out whatever. So anything that's like not tomatoey or vinegary, briny, whatever. Like anything that's low in acid, you're gonna pressure cook.
Yeah.
You have a seal, there's like a big rubber ring around it.
I saw that.
You want to make sure you wash it really good, keep it in nice good condition because dried out and crappy, it doesn't work because it's gonna not seal. It's kind of like the lids of your jars. If it's not good, it's not gonna work. You're not gonna get your pressure
You
seal.
can buy replacement gaskets. We generally try to keep one on hand because once you start the canning process, you don't want to have to stop, shut everything down, run to the store.
This one's different from the ones you're gonna find. Most of the ones in the stores now don't have this method where you put a weight on the top. They usually have like a gauge built into them or whatever. I'm not a fan just because I like old school things. All right, so.
Get an actual case.
Now we've got the lid on it correctly. You want it has like arrows on it. It'll show you which way to slide it, to lock it, whatever. Some of the old ones have little things that drop down. I usually have to like smack it with the handle of a knife because my stuff's old. But that's all right. But he's already doing his thing. He's having a good time. We're doing 10 pounds. This does 10, 15, 5 pounds. The poundage is going to be based on the food you use. You will use things like the,
How will we determine that?
you look it up in the
Your
lovely
canning
ball.
recipe.
Canning
Books.
book.
Okay.
I have them like through time too.
The blue ball
Get
book.
excited. It is the blue ball book.
And it's kind of regional too.
The
isn't
ball blue book of.
Oh yeah, well I guess like based on altitude and stuff, you might want to look things like that up. I've always just, you know, never really live in a high altitude area.
Over 6,000 feet, you want a higher pressure.
Boom, knowledge. We're doing 10 pounds because it's chicken. We'll let it do its thing. It's going to acquire pressure as we go. We'll know when it's ready. Everyone will know when it's ready. It will not be subtle.
So how did you adjust that weight?
I looked it up.
You spin
So
away.
there's a
There's
physical.
3 different.
Oh,
holes.
sorry.
Three holes you use.
I just assume in my mind that people know these things.
No.
Yeah, see those little holes?
Huh?
So they're perfect, drilled out to this shape. And this is obviously like the steam release. You don't want to touch this when it's really hot, which is it's going to be spewing steam out of the hole and it's not good. I burned it out of myself with it, not good. But yeah, so it'll fit right on there and it gives it the pressure needed based on like how the hole's drilled out.
Right.
Yeah, so it'll keep the pressure and if it gets too high, it'll like lift it off. And then, you know, obviously,
It's like
you
a
know, you
tea
need to
kettle
turn it
kind
down.
of.
Yeah.
Sort of, yeah.
Oh, you'll know, it'll make
Yeah.
all kinds of noise.
Yeah, you want it to jiggle like
Be like
a little bit,
locomotive.
like, you don't want it to be like, that's too much. You turn it down.
It shouldn't
Mine also has a
sound-
plug on it that if things get too serious, it'll blow out. And it's kind of like a little hunk of lead or something, just shooting up into the ceiling. We did it once. This is a new one. It was cabbage. Somehow the cabbage got stuck in the hole. Yeah, and then like it built up the pressure and created like a bomb basically, but then the thing blew out and there was...
The safety valve safety.
My brother was cooking that day, so I did not have to clean it. Make your own stuff, it'll save you a ton of money. Like I went on that backpacking trip. The cost of the meals, it's like 12 bucks a meal for camping, like backpacking food. I made all my own, and it was like, my meals cost like I think $1.50 or $1.75 a piece.
And if you
I also did mostly
dehydrator-
vegetarian.
If you
because
buy a
it's cheap.
dehydrator and make your own meals, I tell you what, they're about 150 million times better than
They
the
taste
nasty ass
so
dehydrated
much
shit.
better.
And doing
So
it this
better.
way, you control your sodium
Right.
intake.
Right.
In a survival
Yeah.
situation, you start taking in all that sodium, you're down in water like there's no tomorrow.
You know what though? I feel like people err a bit too much on the side of caution when it comes to the sodium because my sodium intake was way too low. When I got back from my trip, my legs actually swelled by 2 inches, my calves and my feet. Like I couldn't even put like my skinny jeans I was wearing, I couldn't even get them on.
Have you looked
Yeah,
at the
my